Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed his support for dialogue and diplomacy as means of building understanding between Caracas and Washington. Russia will not participate in Wednesday's meeting in Turkey between representatives of Ukraine and the United States. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas rejected the United Nations Security Council's approval of the United States plan for Gaza. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed his support for dialogue and diplomacy as means of building understanding between Venezuela and the United States. Venezuela's head of state, Nicolás Maduro, declared that the most powerful thing a leader can have is his word, in reference to the statements made by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in which he considered holding talks with the leader of the Bolivarian nation. He also reaffirmed Venezuela's position of absolute respect for international law and his condemnation of the use of force to impose rules. The Venezuelan president also emphasized that it is only through dialogue that points of mutual interest should be sought.
I believe that the most powerful thing that a true political leader can have is the word. And the written word is there forever. You can see in this letter that I have here, Caracas, September 6th of 2025. This letter was delivered of 3 pages to the President of the U.S. on September the 6th. September, October, November, 9 weeks exactly it was delivered, and Venezuela has a position that hasn't changed of absolute respect to international law. We firmly question the threat of the use of force or the use of force to impose wars in the relationships between countries, and we ratify what is said by the UN Charter, what is said by our Constitution, what is said by our people. We ratify that only through diplomacy the free countries should understand themselves, the governments, and only through dialogue should they look for common points in subjects of interest to both parties.
In this sense, President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that in the face of the lies of the U.S. government, the Venezuelan people will not be silenced and will continue to defend their truth.
Accuse us of total lies which are extravagant when the own organisms of U.S. intelligence for many years have affirmed the contrary to the lies that they say of Venezuela. We're not going to be silenced. This country will continue saying its truth in the streets, in the international forums, in the UN, in social media, in the communication media.
On Monday, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel presided at the University of Havana ceremony commemorating the 20th anniversary of Fidel Castro's historic speech. The ceremony was held in the main hall of the study center, where in 2005, the year of the revolution, had commemorated the 60th anniversary of his entry into the institution. The ceremony began with the traditional ringing of the university bell and the march of the guard to the mortuary mask of Julio Antonio Mella, founder of Cuban student movement. The ceremony included a symbolic roll call dedicated to the martyrs of the university's Student Federation, read by a young man from the main stage, and concluded by highlighting the responsibility that Cuban youth assume today in defending the country's social project. The Brazilian government signed a series of resolutions announcing the demarcation of 10 indigenous territories, a key step in the process of recognizing the ancestral lands of indigenous peoples. The Minister of Justice, Public Security, Ricardo Lewandowski, in coordination with the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples, has marked this return to territorial policies that had been on hold since 2018. The new demarcations span 6 states and various biomes, from the Amazon to the Atlantic forest, aiming to strengthen climate protection and environmental justice amid a crucial context for global climate negotiations taking place in the city of Belém, in the north of the South American giant. We now have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Brazil, the complaints about the role of countries responsible for pollution during COP30 also extended to the impact of imperialism. Our team explains more in the following report.
Se estima que los ejércitos son responsables por
It is estimated that militaries are responsible for 5.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. If they were a country, they would have the 4th largest carbon footprint in the world. This does not include emissions from reconstruction and caused wildfires.
Que se os homens que fazem guerra tivesse aqui nesta COP,
If the men who make war were here at this COP,
que é muito mais barato colocar 1,3 trilhão de
they would
dólares
realize that it is much cheaper to spend $1,300 billion than to spend $2,700 billion to wage war, as they did last year.
para fazer guerra como fizeram no ano passado.
Estados Unidos es el mayor emisor histórico de
The
gases.
U.S., the largest historical emitter of greenhouse gases, is the great absentee at COP30, and also a central actor due to the genocide in Palestine and the military threat in the Caribbean Sea. Members of the Sumid flotilla, who attempted to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza, were present at the COP to make it clear that environmentalism and the fight against imperialism go hand in hand.
The military threat exists because they are after Venezuela's oil and Colombia's strategic minerals for the energy transition. We used to have a regulated, liberal capitalism that exploited resources, but now we are moving toward an authoritarian military capitalism, and I believe we need to analyze this transition very carefully. They are not seeing culture, people, ecological diversity, or life in us. They only see resources to exploit.
Las deudas de los países en desarrollo.
The debts of developing or underdeveloped countries to international organizations such as the IMF or the World Bank also hinder the development of their economies and climate agendas, especially in situations of economic blockades like those also promoted by the United States. Any effort related to climate financing must be unconditional, inclusive, and independent of ideologies or alternative political systems. It should not be used as a mechanism to subjugate those who have challenged the dominant ideological hegemony, nor should it discriminate against or exclude certain countries from the international financial system.
En la COP30 algunos advierten que no
At COP30, some warn that the protection of the Amazon and the development of its peoples cannot be considered under colonial regimes.
Right now, in French Guiana, all the decisions come from Europe, come from France. We have no power of decision. And everything was decided in France don't match with the reality of French Guiana. So we don't recognize ourselves in the decision of the France. So that's it. We ask for we emancipate we country for we independence, because we know that we alone could decide for ourselves and get the right decision.
No hay tiempo frente al colapso climático.
There is no time in the face of climate collapse, nor in the face of military threats to sides of the same coin for those who defend life and find neither consensus nor reaction from global leaders in the halls of the COP.
Ignacio Lemus y Julian Asif para teleSUR.
President Vladimir Putin's office announced that Russia will not participate in Wednesday's meeting in Turkey between representatives of Ukraine and the United States. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov reiterated that Russia remains open to negotiations regarding the Ukraine conflict. Among other reasons, the spokesperson stated that Moscow has not received any information about the meeting in Istanbul. He only explained that Kiev will have a meeting with the Turkish government, which he described as a friendly government to Russia, and that President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff will participate in that meeting. The senior official added that Russia will wait for the outcome of these negotiations. China launched military maneuvers with live fire in the Yellow Sea amidst escalating tensions with Japan after the recent Prime Minister's comments on Taiwan. Our colleague Bruno Falsi with more details.
Greetings, colleagues of teleSUR. I am here in Beijing to inform that the Chinese authorities have announced a live fire exercise in the Yellow Sea from the 17th November to the 19th. This according to the China Maritime Safety Administration and state media such as the CCTV. This exercise includes artillery fire and prohibits the entry of civilian vessels. China media and experts cited by the Global Times emphasize that these maneuvers have legitimate training and defense actions, protecting China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and reiterate that Taiwan is part of its territory. This according to the One China policy and to the United Nations. Japan, through statement by its Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, has threatened military intervention in Taiwan, reviving the history of Japanese aggression during the World War II, when genocide and ethnic cleansing were committed against China, resulting in the death of more than 35 million civilians. Western media outlets such as Reuters, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post describe these maneuvers as a political and military message from China, highlighting the strategic sensitivity of the Yellow Sea and the importance of Taiwan. This without mentioning the history of Japanese aggression on China's sovereignty and the China's sovereignty over these islands. With this news, we return to the studios in La Habana, Cuba.
We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. The final break, go away. Welcome back. The United Nations Security Council approved the United States resolution to deploy an international stabilization force in the Gaza Strip. The resolution presented by the United States and based on Donald Trump's 20-point ceasefire plan was adopted with 13 votes in favor and 2 abstentions from Russia and China. The text authorizes the deployment of an international stabilization force, a coalition that would include Muslim-majority countries such as Indonesia and Azerbaijan, to secure Gaza, oversee its demilitarization, protect civilians, and escort humanitarian aid. It also establishes a transitional administration with international coordination and a trust fund backed by the World Bank to finance reconstruction. Western countries have described these measures as a first step toward a Palestinian state, although without defining its borders or the Palestinian right to self-defense. In this regard, the Hamas movement responded to the UN Security Council resolution stating that it does not meet the political and humanitarian demands or the rights of the Palestinian people, especially in the Gaza Strip. Hamas criticized the resolution for imposing an international guardianship mechanism over Gaza. The movement argued that this initiative seeks to achieve objectives that Israel did not accomplish through war, and that it further separates Gaza from the rest of the Palestinian territories, attempting to impose a new reality that disregards Palestinian national rights, including their right to self-determination and the establishment of a state with Jerusalem as its capital. The Palestinian resistance movement warned that assigning tasks such as disarming resistance to an international force would strip it of neutrality and make it part of the conflict. The movement maintains that any international force should be limited to operating at the border, supervising the ceasefire under full UN authority and in exclusive coordination with Palestinian official institutions. Finally, the Palestinian movement urged the international community and the Security Council to uphold international law, immediately stop the war in Gaza, support reconstruction efforts, end the occupation, and enable the Palestinian people to exercise their right to self-determination and establish an independent state with Jerusalem as its capital. For its part, Russia and China denounced the lack of transparency in the resolution approved by the United Nations Security Council for Gaza and rejected the ongoing colonial practices. The resolution, based on the 20 points proposed by the United States for the Palestinian enclave, was approved on Monday with the abstention of Beijing and Moscow. They affirmed that the organization supports an initiative based on the commitment of Washington, which has demonstrated opacity, ineffectiveness, and irresponsibility in these and several other conflicts. Chinese Representative Fu Kong reiterated that the agreement is vague and does not clarify critical elements, while Vasily Nebensia, his Russian counterpart, questioned the fact that none of the countries supplying weapons to Zionism has committed to the demilitarization of the Palestinian enclave. And the national teams of Catalonia and Palestine will face each other this Tuesday at the Olympic Stadium in Montjuic, where around 30,000 spectators are expected to attend a solidarity match in which all proceeds will go entirely to initiatives supporting the Palestinian people. This is the second stop on the Palestinian national team's tour after they faced a Basque country this past Saturday at San Mamés, where more than 50,000 people filled the stands. Catalonia's coach, Gerard Lopez, confirmed on Monday after the customary photo of both coaches and the exchange of jerseys that approximately 26,000 of the 55,000 available tickets have already been sold. The match will have a dual dimension, both solidarity-based and sporting, while on the social side, all proceeds will be allocated to the reconstruction of Gaza. And Pope Leo XIV on Monday urged countries at United Nations climate talks to take concrete actions to stop climate change that is threatening the planet. The Pope, in a video message, made his proclamation and encouraged countries from various ecological organizations to intensify their actions, declaring that efforts have been made but that they are still not enough. The Pope declared that one in three people live in a vulnerable situation due to climate change, and that helping these people should be the highest priority of all states in the world. Scientists say that in addition to deadly heat, a warming atmosphere leads to more frequent and deadly extreme weather. The United Kingdom, an immersive exhibition, offers visitors a glimpse of the ancient city of Pompeii through an artistic journey that takes them nearly 2,000 years back in time. Let's see.
At an exhibition center in London, the show The Last Days of Pompeii allows the public to learn about this famous city and experience up close the events that took place in 79 CE, when the eruption of Mount Vesuvius buried the city. With the help of immersive technology, The exhibition presents a rich historical narrative of the city from its discovery in the mid-18th century. It features around 10 installations, ranging from virtual reality rooms to authentic relics from the period, offering a complete experience.
We have cutting-edge technology, virtual reality area, we have metaverse room, we have immersive room, but that is just based on a very interesting and intense storytelling. We need to make this technology be just part of the experience and make people dive and feel immersed in the story. Make something that's impossible, in fact, which is travel back in time and be in a moment and in a period that was so interesting, like the Roman Empire, and in that moment when the Vesuvius exploded.
Light and video projections recreate the entire area of Pompeii and its archaeological sites, which are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Among the most striking elements of the exhibition is a huge room that displays various 360-degree scenes, offering an unparalleled view of this ancient world.
Roman Empire, the theater was not just for entertainment.
The last days of Pompeii has everything. Has history, has archaeology, has drama, has storytelling. We are really interested in this mix between fiction and reality. What was real at that time, working with historians, working with archaeologists, and at that time, also in the 19th century when the ruins were discovered, a lot of writers and creative people were like really interested in making new storytelling on Pompeii. Yeah? So that mix between fiction and reality was something really exciting to us, to go back to that story. One of the biggest challenges here, especially at the Excel in London, is the size of the exhibition. It's the biggest exhibition we've ever built, so it's like incredible for us when now we see the result of how it looks.
London is the 6th city to host the exhibition The Last Days of Pompeii, following stops in Madrid, Vienna, Beijing, Berlin, and Oberhausen. Visitors will still be able to enjoy this experience until March of next year, before the installations travel to Shanghai and Buenos Aires.
This we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.